I was on my way to a doctor's appointment early in the morning. It was about like 9:30, and I was on a major highway, I-95, and I was heading northbound. So I went ahead and tried going around a semi, and when I was going around it, I was trailing behind an SUV, and all of a sudden the SUV swerved last second out of the way. And so what happened, I didn't have any time to respond, and basically I rammed right into the back of this vehicle, and that car spun out, and then me hitting it, my Jeep elevated into the next lane like this. So like this. The semi that was there hit me in my undercarriage. When I landed on my side, my hard top popped off, and then I got ejected out onto the highway.
Welcome to Bed, Back, and Beyond, sharing positive stories of recovery from serious back or neck injury. Your host is CK, a fellow champion who draws on her own experience with herniated disc surgery. Join her as she talks with others who have overcome the physical and emotional trauma of a painful injury, and discover for yourself how you can find hope and encouragement in recovery.
Welcome to Bed, Back, and Beyond. On today's episode, I am speaking to the exceptional Elena. Elena is a survivor of a near-death car accident that has left her paralyzed, but she is overcoming the odds. She hasn't listened to anyone who told her she would never walk again, and she is making strides in her recovery. Hi, Elena. Thank you so much for joining me on the Bed, Back, and Beyond podcast. Before we dive into your injury, I would love just to learn a little bit about you. Do you mind sharing some hobbies or anything about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Christine. So, a little bit about me. I am born and raised in Florida from a small little beach town called New Smyrna Beach. We like to say that we have a shark problem because we're the shark bite capital of the world. I'm a surfer. I am very active. I was a bodybuilder. Still am a bodybuilder. I go to the gym a lot. I like to do anything outdoors, and I went to school all throughout New Smyrna. So I graduated from New Smyrna Beach High School, and then went straight into pharmacy school right after I graduated. And I did a 4-year grad program, and I graduated pharmacy school in May 2021. And then I took some time off after pharmacy school because I was a little burnt out, and I just wanted to recollect myself because it was just grind for a really, really long time. And I just needed some time to just readjust for a second before I hopped right into the career. And so I took some time off, and then I finally decided to buckle down in November of 2021. And then I started studying for about 4 months before taking the board exam. And I scheduled the board exam for February 2022. And the week of my board exam, that Monday, I was in a life-altering accident that put me in a wheelchair and paralyzed me from the waist down.
Before you got to take the boards or after you got to take the boards?
Before. No, 5 days before.
Wow. And just a real quick question about New Smyrna Beach. Is that where Bob Ross
Yeah, I
was
think so.
located?
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
I
Yeah.
visited New Smyrna once, and I believe it
Oh,
was,
cool.
yeah, I didn't hear about shark attacks, but I'd certainly heard about
No,
Bob
not
Ross.
shark attacks, shark bites.
Okay.
Big difference, big difference.
Yes, definitely. And are you still in New Smyrna now?
I am, yeah. Yeah, I actually just got back in from surfing. So there's a Team Florida adaptive surf team, and I'm a part of that. And so we get to go out and surf, and which is nice because it's back in the water, and it doesn't make you feel like you're injured when you're out there.
I bet. And just so you know, I work on skin cancers for a living, so I hope you're wearing your sunscreen.
We can have a debate about sunscreen.
Right. So, change of topic then. So it was, I'm sorry, February of what year then?
2022, so 2 years ago.
Okay. And do you mind explaining what happened in the car accident?
Yeah, no, not at all. So I don't remember any of it at all. Basically, there was a video that got brought forward from a semi driver that was driving. Let me think. They were driving southbound as I was driving northbound, and so they were able to come forward with the video. Otherwise, I would never have known what happened because I don't know, with trauma. I guess you'd probably just block it out. But I was on my way to a doctor's appointment early in the morning. It was about like 9:30, and I was on a major highway, I-95, and I was heading northbound. And from the video, it this is what my inference that I've made from it basically. I never liked really driving behind semis, so I went ahead and like tried going around a semi. And when I was going around it, I was trailing behind an SUV, and I drove a lifted Jeep and stuff, but I still couldn't see in front of the SUV. And all of a sudden the SUV swerved last second, like out of the way, because there was a stopped vehicle in the fast lane on this major highway. And so what happened, I didn't have any time to respond, and basically I rammed right into the back of this vehicle. And I'm pretty sure I did try like going to the right because I hit like the back right of the vehicle, but that car spun out, and then me hitting it, my Jeep elevated into the next lane, like this. So like this.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And the semi that was there just hit me in my undercarriage, and when I landed on my side, my hard top popped off, and then I got ejected out onto the highway. And the semi jackknifed the whole entire highway. The highway was shut down for quite some time, and I never lost consciousness, though. The way that things happened, for me to be able to be here and talk to you right now is, I do believe it's God's work, because it was a really bad accident. And the stories that I've been told from either the paramedic or like the people that had seen it happen, it was really hard for a lot of people. But there were two guys that stopped when they saw my accident, and one of them was a retired firefighter from Brooklyn. He happened to keep me conscious the entire time by talking to me. And by the time EMS showed up, I got to meet the paramedic that took care of me, because she was actually one of the mothers of a good friend of mine. And so I got to talk to her, and I asked her what was her inference, and she had said that she thought I was a fatality coming up on scene, because I was laying face down with my head cocked to the side. And she came over and she started checking my pulse, and then all of a sudden I just started talking to her. And yeah, and
Just freaked her out a little.
yeah, it did. She's like, it freaked me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she said that one of the first things that I had told her was that I couldn't feel my legs, which blows me away, because losing the ability of my legs, being an athlete my whole life, being in the bodybuilding world, always never sitting down, always on my legs, I did have the fear of, losing my ability to use them. And so to be that consciously aware at that point in time, and of where like my body was in time and space, and to just know like I couldn't move my legs, my heart definitely dropped a little bit when she told me that, because I was like, wow, like of all the things I could have said, that's the one thing that I said. And so then they brought me. She said that when I was in the ambulance, that I was really stubborn, because I would be in and out of, like, not in and out of consciousness, but in and out of like being with it. I suffered a concussion. Yeah, then that was the only really major brain injury that I had, was a concussion, and then a really tiny brain bleed. And amongst the other plethora of injuries, which I'll get into in here in a second. But she said that I was in and out of it, and that when I was with it, like that I was okay. And then when I wasn't with it, I just was really confused and annoyed that I couldn't get up and do what I wanted to do. And my arm was like snapped in half, and which I have, this is the scar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she said that I just kept wanting to move it. And that I was just really stubborn. And I'm like, that sounds about right. That's about that's me. And so, but yeah, so then when I got to the hospital, they medically induced me, and I was in a coma for 6 days. And so the injuries that I sustained, the biggest one was my L2 was a burst fracture. And so my meaning like the vertebrae was shattered in pieces. And it was, when I saw it on the x-ray, it was shattered in a lot of pieces. And I also had a C2 hangman's fracture from a whiplash. So I was very blessed and fortunate to not have had a higher level injury where I wouldn't be able to use my arms and my legs. And then I had a C6, C7 fracture. I broke 6 ribs. I had some injured, broken thoracics. I also I think I had L1 and L3 were also fractured, and then I broke my humerus, I broke my left clavicle, my left scapula. I I did break my nose, but not very badly. At least it doesn't look like it. And then I always wear flip flops. Like, well, I used to always wear flip flops. They kind of fall off my feet now, but I had flip flops on that day, and so the road rash that I had got was really, which was very astonishing. I didn't get have it all over my body. I really only had it on my hands, and then I had it on my feet, and really it was my left foot that got the brunt force of all of it. And they did try to save my pinky toe, but about like 2.5 weeks into in the hospital, maybe it was around 3 weeks in the hospital, they had given me the option of whether or not I wanted to keep my pinky toe, and I had said, okay, like what are the risks of keeping it? And they had said, well, the $1 million worth of plates you have in your back, that's the first thing that's going to go if you have like an infection. And I'm like, okay, we can just take the pinky toe. And so we amputated the pinky toe, and I think that's the most, all of my injuries for the most part.
Plates meaning they had to do a fusion?
Yeah, so I'm fused T12 and L1, and they decompressed L2, and then L3 and L4.
With the shattered vertebrae, was it a partial spinal nerve or a complete spinal nerve damage?
Incomplete spinal cord injury.
Okay. And just for people like me who are confused, does that include like, some severing or is it more like of a crushing of the spinal cord?
That's a good question. I think it's like bone fragments were pushing up against and putting pressure into the spinal canal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thankfully, like it wasn't a complete sever, but it was enough to paralyze me. So
So you woke up in the hospital 6 days after a coma, no memory of even swerving to miss a car?
no, I remember leaving my house that morning, and yeah, that's and even then it took me a long time to even remember leaving the house that morning, because I was like, when I woke up and I was being told like, yeah, you were on the way to doctors. I'm like, no, I wasn't. And they're like, what do you mean? Like that's what you said you were doing. And then it took me a while until I actually I finally did remember like that morning. And yeah, like the first time I woke up in the hospital, when they were putting me on and off sedation to see if I was stable, because I had gone, so the accident happened on February 7th, and then February 8th they put me in back surgery, so 6-hour back surgery. And uh, and then that Friday, yeah, I think that Friday is when they operated on my arm, and then Saturday is when they extubated me. But before they extubated me, they were putting me on and off sedation. And so when I came off of sedation and I opened my eyes, like I had a tube coming out of my mouth, I was just really confused, and I saw my father at the end of my bed, and I just looked at him, and my eyes just like bugged out, and he looked at me, and he's like, oh, he's like, you were in a really bad car accident, and all I could think of was like, I'm in a really bad dream. There's no way that this is really what's happening right now, because like that's what it felt like. It felt like, I don't even know. It just didn't feel real. And when I remember telling myself, okay, like I'm gonna close my eyes, and I'm gonna wake up next to my dogs, and everything's gonna be fine. And then the next time I woke up was on my way to extubation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's still not. I'm still in this dream. Like
This is actually
what's
real.
yeah, or I'm still in this dream. Like what's happening? And then I got extubated, and yeah, that's pretty much. And then I think one of the first things that I woke up when that I said, are we allowed to curse on here? Am I allowed to curse or?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
You be you.
The first word that I had said upon awakening was "fuck,"
Uh,
because the amount of pain that I was in the beginning was really awful, and it just yeah, it was just a total upside, like life just got flipped upside down real fast.
wow. And who broke the news to you that you were paralyzed? Your father or a doctor?
Um, you know, I'm I was so like drugged up in the beginning, and like the first like in the hospital, I was drugged up the whole entire time. That anybody that had said anything to me about being paralyzed, it didn't register in my brain. Like I don't remember. I have no recollection of like when when it was told to me. The when it really hit me was about 3 weeks in the hospital, and I was taking an Asia test. And an Asia test is basically where they they prick you in certain areas, and they basically test your sensory and your motor pathways to see where you're at on the Asia scale. And the Asia scale goes like A, B, C, D, and then based off of like your dermatomes, the dermatomes on your body, and what you can feel and what you can't feel, then you could be like, for me, my first Asia test was T12 Asia B. So basically, like based off of your dermatome, then they can like figure out like where like your level of injury is, or where like the, I guess is the best way of describing it. That's maybe lack of better words, but the doctor had asked me, and I thought I was killing it. I'm like, yeah, oh my god, this is amazing. Like I got this, and the doctor had asked me to bring my knee to my chest, and then I couldn't, and that's when everything really started getting really dark for me because, like I said, it didn't register. I thought I just couldn't like move around in bed because like I was injured, like like I or wasn't like allowed to move around in bed and stuff, not because I wasn't able to.
So how long did you spend in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for, let's see, February 7th to March 1st, so about 3 weeks, and then maybe 3.5 weeks, and then I went in straight into inpatient rehab in Jacksonville at Brooks Rehabilitation for another 3 to 3.5 weeks.
That was like a live-in rehab?
Yeah, inpatient. Yeah, so because I was basically, I wasn't able to really do much of anything.
So what was the plan of treatment once you got the fusion and the arm fixed? What was the plan of treatment once you got into rehab? Just physical therapy or
Well, see, I had a lot of limitations on me when I got into rehab that they didn't really do much with me, and which was really saddening because I kept saying like I can, like, I mean, in the beginning I wasn't, like the first week I was there, like I couldn't be touched really. Like people had to open palm touch me. I couldn't have fingertips touching my legs because I was hyperalgesic. So like anybody that did touch me, it was just excruciating pain, and I had to tell everybody, I'm like, please open palm touch me, like otherwise I'll be like, and I have a pretty high pain tolerance.
I was assuming with the loss of leg motion that you had no feeling at all.
Oh no, like it's just it's a nerve, like it's nerve feeling. It's not the same kind of feeling what you would have, but it's just it's like your nerves, they're on fire and they are upset. And yeah, so people had to open palm touch me, and I remember screaming a lot. Like I said, I had a really high pain tolerance, and I never had said like I got 10 out of 10 pain. It was always 8 out of 10 pain. So it was rough for like the first week and a half. But then I found out that they weren't really doing much with me because I had these limitations, and I had limitations on my feet, or like being able to stand, even though when I looked it up, like if you have a toe amputation, like you just throw a boot on it and then you're okay. Which, so I didn't really understand like why they weren't like really putting me up. And it wasn't until the last week that I was there that they finally got me like in a standing position through like a standing frame, that they put me like on the FES bike, the functional electric stimulation bike, which I use regularly now, but I only got to use that like one time for like a couple of minutes. And so I lost a lot of muscle mass when I was in, like, throughout this whole entire process. And like I said, I was in the bodybuilding world and prior to, and I didn't have really a lot of weight to lose. If anything, it was just muscle to lose. And so when the day of my accident, I was close to 140 pounds. And then the day that I came home from rehab, I was about 103 pounds. And I was skin and bones. It was really, really hard. It was just a lot to like look at myself in the mirror because I couldn't even recognize myself. Couldn't look at pictures for a really long time. It didn't look like me. I would be like, "That's me." Like I'm like, "That doesn't look like me." Now it's a lot different. Now I feel a lot like myself again. And looking back at old pictures, it's like, okay, like here I am again. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. And they really just did like I just asked them to like stretch my legs out and to just move them. And then when I was in rehab at about, I think it was like 2.5 weeks in, I was always trying to move, always, and I always am trying to move, like my feet and stuff. And one day I like looked down, and three of my girlfriends were visiting, and they like went out into the hallway for a second, and then I like looked down at my feet, and like my left foot, like my it was like moving like a little like this, like
It's something.
yeah, and I freaked out. I'm like, "Can you come in here, please?" I'm like, "There's no way that." I'm like, "Is that did it just move?" And then they looked, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, it is." And so we were just like all celebrating and like wilding out, and so that was like the first time that I had seen any kind of movement come back.
Were you told that you would never walk again?
No, yeah, it was pretty grim. It was basically like, yeah, it was that I wasn't ever gonna walk again.
Wow. How did you deal with that emotionally as a bodybuilder? Like you said, now losing muscle mass and being told you can't. Did you wallow, or did you right away have a mindset of I can do this?
Well, a little bit of both. It was more like, and I had just written about this actually. Because the fear really got a grip of me. I was really like living a life in a wheelchair was like a big fear of mine. Like I never, and that's just me being honest. Like the people that have been doing it their whole lives, like I'm just amazed by because it's really a whole different kind of lifestyle and a different kind of way to like move through the world essentially. And in the beginning, it was really rough. I was definitely sad a lot, and I wasn't really, like, upset at I remember my friend asking me, she's like, "Are you angry?" And I remember telling her, I'm not angry because, 1, I shouldn't have survived, and I did. And so, like, for God to have saved me and spared my spirit that day, I didn't get a major brain injury, so, like, I was still the same girl prior to. It was hard for me to, like, really be angry in that kind of way. I wasn't angry at God, because again, like I said, I think he saved me when I shouldn't be here talking to you right now, and I am. And but I think I was more angry at, like, how it transpired, because again, it was just people kind of being negligent on their part and just being stopped in the highway, like, they didn't have time to pull over, I don't know. So, I was angry in the beginning, and I did reach some really low, dark places that, I questioned, like, why I did make it because of everything that basically the reality that I was unfolding in front of me. It's not just the loss of walking that one deals with a spinal cord injury. It's a complete loss of independence, especially in the beginning. I mean, we're talking everything from like being able to take a shower, being able to use the restroom, being able to drive, being able to real like your all of your autonomy is just ripped away and taken from you. And I think that really put me in a dark place because I wasn't the girl that relied on a lot of people to do a lot of things. And so when now I'm relying on everybody for everything, it's like, how am I going to be able to move through this and do this my whole entire life? Like there's no way that I can. And so and then at one point in time, I just had to like look fear in the face and be like, we're not doing it like this. We're just like, once I got back into like being able to work out and get back into like the habits that I essentially created prior to like rebuilding myself, I started building the confidence again. And I'm like, okay, I can get through this. And then God has been blessing me this whole entire time to be able to like I don't have to go to work, and I am able to go to rehab because of the generous donations that I've gotten and received. And so I feel like I have to do my part in putting in the work and essentially showing my gratitude by like continuing to push every single day, because I do get to still enjoy like the little things in life that we all take for granted. And here I am getting to still be able to see it all. And so I have to remind myself, like, when I do it's rare that I fall into those painful moments now, but when I do, I just remind myself, like I just have an attitude of gratitude, as silly as that sounds. But basically, that's what it is, because I think sometimes life just hands you a certain set of cards, and it's not necessarily whether you're gonna win them or not, but it's how you play those cards, right? Like you could have a really good poker face and still win. So it's just a matter it's just a matter of how you're going to move through. And so I think that the I think the dark points definitely have to be there so that you can really appreciate like the high points once you get there.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Very different from your injury, but I herniated a disc, and I have a community of people who herniated a disc, and it's such a painful injury that we all kind of get into this mindset of we're stuck. We're never going to get better. You have to rely on people just to help you around the house, and then you feel guilty for having to have people help you. And so my
Or like a burden. Like
a
every
burden
yeah,
exactly.
like everybody doing everything for you, and although everybody is so willing and always wanting to, it's like, "Damn, like, you gotta help me again," you know, and again, it
It's
might
a
not
loss of independence.
yeah, people will take their independence for granted, you know, like, you don't really realize, like, all the independence one has until it's all taken away and you're relying on everybody for everything, and I think, like, I mean, like I said, all the way down to going to the restroom, and that's that definitely does something to a person when you have to ask somebody to help you use the restroom, you know?
Mhm. I had to ask my husband to help clean up after I used the bathroom, and I cried so much, and he was so great about it, but I still get, like, a little teary-eyed when I think about him having to do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I've had I've had my best friends, I've had my family, I've had all kinds of people. I've had to ask them to do some things that are just you just wouldn't want to have to ask somebody in your entire life to do.
But like you said, mindset is huge, so I try and tell the herniated disc community, like, "You will get through this. You have to look at it as a challenge that you can overcome." At any point, did you have to take over your recovery or your rehab?
I mean, I feel like from the beginning, I mean, I thankfully had like my sister and I had one of my best friends who are both nurses, like be my advocates for me in the hospital and in rehab. And I think you have to bring it into your own hands regardless, like wherever you're at, even from the beginning. Because again, if I listened to what the doctors had told me or what my prognosis was, I wouldn't be where I'm at in my recovery. I don't know. I would have been a statistic, you know? And so I think when we're brought up like these challenges and things like that, I think that we have to just take it into our own hands. And I can't say that there's a direct moment when I took things into my own hands, but I remember like I had said prior earlier, that when I got back into like working out and stuff. So I mean, I had a diaper on, I had a Foley catheter in, I had my C collar still on. I was skin and bones. I was in my wheelchair and I'm working out in the garage lifting weights and trying to just build myself back into who I remember myself being. And in that process, I feel like a lot changed for me mentally because I reminded myself of like what I am capable of doing because I've done a lot of things in my life and I've accomplished a lot, and I think we have to remind ourselves of those things so that we can continue pushing further into where we're wanting to go.
So 2 years later, where are you at in your recovery?
So I am able to walk with arm crutches and things like that. It's not efficient yet, but I am able to take step like I am able to walk without any assistance. I have braces that I use which I'm able to walk in at my rehab place. And then uh but I just have some limiting factors, so my calves aren't activating yet, and my right foot still doesn't pick up like by itself. Like my right tibialis doesn't activate yet either, and so but I wear like a little ankle brace that like helps it stay in dorsiflexion so that I can clear my foot when I do take steps. Uh, so that's where I'm at in my recovery. I've gained about 20 pounds back, and I feel really good about like where I'm at. It's just a matter of like continuing to persevere and continuing to do the daily things no matter how tedious it is to just continue doing it because what you put in is what you get out. If you don't want to do anything, then don't expect anything to be rewarded to you, and that's how I kind of look at this whole recovery.
And you're using your Instagram to be, inspiration to others. Do you mind talking about that for a little bit?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, so I actually started Flow State Recovery, which is my Instagram handle, when I was in pharmacy school, and which is really crazy because of what it's now turned into. But I started Flow State Recovery because when I was in pharmacy school, I had a niche for substance use disorder and addiction, and I liked that. I liked like gravitating towards that population because I liked seeing somebody get themselves from rock bottom and bring themselves all the way back to like a high point. And so I wanted to come out of pharmacy school and create a clinic to essentially have where they follow like people who have substance use problems and addiction, where they follow up to and they come and I continue helping them in their journey. And so it started off as that, and then what I started realizing like the bureaucracy and how kind of challenging and troubling it would be to actually start that with finances and things like that, with like funding and how it would actually all happen. And so I then I thought, okay, well maybe I could still do flow state recovery as the name of the clinic, but make it a ketamine clinic because that's something that those are up and coming and help people who have gone through these things get through them. And so it started off as that, and then as I went through pharmacy school, I started realizing that so many people, including myself, were caught in the rat race of society and completely out of who they could be and who they should be, right? Like who they're meant to be. And I think, as I reflect back on pharmacy school and I really like think about like why I went into pharmacy school, it was really for selfish reasons and there wasn't a lot of purpose behind why I went into it. And by selfish, I really mean like money reasons. So yes, I love helping people, obviously, but there's a difference between there's just a different kind of like there's different ways of helping people. And the way that big pharma, I don't know your views on it, but I wasn't a big fan of what big pharma was doing coming out of school with COVID and things like that. And so I really just wasn't a big fan of it. And so flow state recovery started evolving into helping people recover back into their own flow state, meaning like when you're completely aligned with everything in your life, meaning like your fitness, your nutrition, your mindset, your outlooks, your perspectives, things like that. When you're aligned with all of that, it kind of opens up spirit to guide you in the way that you want, like where you're supposed to go and where you're meant to go. And so that's how flow state recovery has kind of evolved into what it is now. And then the accident happened, and now I have like this story where now I get to actually like talk about it and really try to bring people like without having a life altering accident, like let's try and get you into a place where like you don't have to go through what I've gone through, but I can still teach you the things that I've learned to help you get to where you want to go. So then I became an online fitness and mindset coach, and so I'm helping. That's what my mission is now, essentially to help people get back into their own flow state and get into the bodies that they want, feeling good, because that's all things that I've had to do, and that's what's helped me get through what I've gone through. And if I can get through what I've gone through, then I'm pretty sure people can get through the things that they're going through.
That's amazing. Other than mindset, is there something else that has been a part of your recovery that you would recommend to people with spinal cord injuries?
Yeah, alternative therapies. So I'm a big fan of peptides. I think peptides are definitely up and coming and things to do your research in to create your own discernment on. But I think that I can't say that the peptides that I've tried haven't helped, considering I start was able to start taking steps less than at probably like a year and a half. And so which is really fast after a spinal cord injury. And so the peptides that I've done are TB500 and BPC 157. And so those are things to for people to like look into and again do your own due diligence and create your own discernment on, because I can't say that they weren't helpful. And then well yes, mindset is going to be a big one, and honestly like getting a coach that can help you see things in a way that somebody in your immediate circle or your personal circle might not be able to help you see them, or even if they do are able to help you see it, you probably aren't going to listen to them as much as maybe an outsider, because it's a personal connection, right? And so if an outsider comes in and says, hey, like this is like they don't have any personal ties to you, but they have a way of seeing what you're going through, or maybe not even what you're going through, but what a different outlook or a different perspective that, somebody could find really useful, or that they might look past if they do have a personal connection with you. And so I think,
And do you mean a physical coach or a mental health coach?
yeah, I think both. I think, or finding somebody that can help in all areas. I think that that's really important. I think we all need mentors and guides to help us move through the things that we're going through, because sometimes it's just too much, and we just need somebody that is able to like listen and hear us and guide us in a direction that is more serving and can essentially walk or talk us off the edge of the cliff, right? Because spinal cord injuries can definitely make a person feel like they don't want to be here. Because that's, I mean, I felt like that, and so I get that feeling, and I think that it's important to find a good support system, and even if you don't have a support system like close, to then go and find that, right? So people who have spinal cord injuries that go and have like, not that I'm a part of any of these groups, but I was just thinking about it the other day, like to maybe go and find groups that are like spinal cord injury people, and where you can talk to them and hear their stories, and just support in itself. My community in my town showed up for me in ways that I never thought I'd imagine. And so like my support system in my community, like I have an amazing support system outside of spinal cord injury. And again, I don't know. I'm amazed by all of it. And like I've grown up here my whole entire life, and I was a lifeguard on the beach for 4 years, and then I was a bartender in hospitality for 7. And then growing up and being going to school my whole entire life here, like a lot of people in town know me. And so when I saw how the community showed up for me, and it really that helps a lot too. The community definitely helps. And I think going and sharing your story and like helping others at the same time, because when you're sharing your struggles, and when you show the things that you're going through and how you're going through them, it shows people that, like, well, if they can go through that, then like I can get through what I'm going through. And that's nice, like even if it's one person, like I'm not saying that everybody has to go and like have this major following, but even one person that comes out and says like, I really needed that today, thank you, like that makes it all worth it, sharing the things that one goes through, because we all go through these things for a reason. It's not we Life isn't here to just like to shit on you. Like it's trying to show you something, and share and like make you see things in a way that could either be a benefit to somebody. And I think that's really what it is like, how can we take what we go through and help other people.
Now, you have mentioned God a couple times, and you mentioned living for the glory of God on your Podmatch bio. Are you a woman of faith, and what particular faith?
Yeah, Christian. Yeah, because like I said, the way that God's shown up in my life throughout this whole entire thing is has not just left me in awe, but has left the people around me in awe, where I don't even know how to explain it. It's just awe inspiring to me, and to those that have been able to witness and see it.
But yet you never felt angry at God for the situation.
No, because I shouldn't be here, and I am.
Yeah. Did your faith have any particular help in your recovery, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when we start questioning things, it's because we're losing our trust in our faith. And I think a big thing is you just got to trust that like what's happening, as long okay, as long as you're doing your part. I mean, you can't be sitting on the couch just like hoping and praying that something is going to change when you're not doing anything. When you're going out and doing your part, then you can trust that what's going to unfold is going to unfold for you exactly as it's meant to. But you have to meet God in the middle. He can't do all of it, like at least that's how I see it. People might have a differing opinion, but that's how I see it. And I don't think I really ever, I can't say that I've never prayed to walk again, but that still isn't like at the forefront of my prayers, actually. If anything, and my prayers are always just of gratitude and of giving thanks, because in the beginning I had prayed, just supply me with what I need to be able to get to the other side of this. And he has done exactly that. And how can I be upset at something, at somebody that has provided for me in all the ways to be able to succeed and get to where I'm meant to go.
Yeah. There's something very comforting about knowing that you're resting in the hands of a sovereign God who has a purpose for what you're going through, and you know it's not going to be wasted.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly, and finding purpose in what it is that you're going through, because there is purpose in the things that we go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm a pastor's wife, just so you know.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah, I mean, the way that God's shown up in my life, like I said, the rehab facility I go to, it's the only one in the world. It's called CORE, Center of Recovery and Exercise, and it's less than an hour away from me, and I get to drive there, 4 days a week. I've had a restaurant, the bar that I worked for, they threw a fundraiser for me that, about like a lot of money was raised for me, and then one of my really good friends, one of my best friends, told her father about me and how I've impacted her life, like prior to the accident. And he had come forward and he's like, God put it in my heart to help you. And he's helped me be able to go to rehab 4 days a week, and where I don't have to go and work, and be able to supply me donations to be able to continue in this recovery. And I don't know, when you have all these people invested in you, you want to show up and do the best that you can, because it's not just for you at this point in time. Like, there's other people, and you're setting the example for those around you, and God continues supplying everything that I need to be able to get to where he wants me to go. And and again, like, how can somebody be upset about that? Yeah, does it suck sometimes? Yeah, it does. But then I'm always just reminded over and over again as to why I'm going like, not even why I'm going through all this, but like just the little goodies that life has in store for us to continue, soaking in and loving.
Mhm. Are you still accepting donations for your recovery?
I am.
Would they find your link on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the GoFundMe link on uh as like, you'll go to a link, and then in the link there's like a bunch of other links where you click on the GoFundMe link. And so yeah, people, if they want to, they can, which I'd be very appreciative of and thankful for.
Elena, you've already said so much insightful stuff, and I appreciate you coming on and just sharing about your injury. Do you have anything else that you would want to say to someone who is going through an injury and maybe in that I'm stuck mindset right now?
I think we you just got to keep going. You got to keep going, and you got to really dive deep into, really reflect on like who you are and what it is that you want out of life, I think. And yeah, does it seem really daunting and horrible in the beginning? It does, but it doesn't mean that you can't get to the other side of it. And recovery isn't just about walking, right? It's recovery is just about being able to get into a mental state where you're happy with life again, and you're back to feeling good. And that comes from the work that you decide to put in, right? You can sit and be victim to what has happened to you, but at the same time, who is that going to benefit, and who is that also going to hurt? Because really, the biggest person it's going to hurt is you. And I think you have to keep going, and no matter how hard it gets, because that's the one thing life promises, is that it's going to be hard, and that it's going to continue bringing more and more difficulties. But that's life, and that's what we signed up for when we decided to come into this human experience.
Mhm. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bed Back and Beyond podcast. If you are a listener who has a positive story of recovery from a serious back or neck injury, head over to bedbackbeyond.com and click share your story. I would love to include your voice on the show. Elena, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kristen.